What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Just Talking Nonsense. Today is episode 4, and I'm your host, Luke van Rooyen. Now, last week we talked about, in episode 3, we talked about arts, paintings, artworks. We had an interview with John Geldenays, who's also an artist, obviously. If you are interested and if you can't remember his website for the artworks, I'll put it on here for you on the screen. It is called Pharmic Pharmacy, where you can get all his digital art and also his actual paintings that he did with paints and different kinds of mediums. If you missed that episode, the link to that video is up here. Please go check it out. Actually, it will be up this side, so go check it out if you haven't seen that episode yet. Now, before we start with today's episode, please remember to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, click on all to never miss any of my videos. Please give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to drop some comments down below. Now, to all the new viewers, welcome. Thank you for watching. This is Just Talking Nonsense, where we talk about all kinds of stuff like music, arts, video games, editing, books, authors, artists, and so much more. So for today's episode, in episode 4, we will be talking about TV shows and movies. Now, I'm gonna talk about my favorite movies of all time and my favorite TV shows of all time, give you a bit of an idea what it's all about, give you the actors and the characters of the show and movie. And yeah, maybe if you're interested, you can go check it out. Just to say, so I'm obsessed with horror and thriller, so all of these movies and TV shows probably are mostly horror. So if you're not a horror fan, you can still watch this video just for interest. I won't recommend for you to watch it then if you don't like horror. But if you like horror, this episode is for you. Please continue watching and please go check out these movies and TV shows if you haven't yet already. Now I'm going to go through each movie and TV show. It's not in a particular order. I'm going by the franchise, so if it's a franchise, I'll do that last because it's a big franchise. But yeah, without further ado, let's hit that intro and let's start with tonight's episode. Alright, now for the first movie, for our first film we're going to do today, so I'm going to do film first and then we're going to do TV shows. For our first film I'll be discussing tonight is called the one and only A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, Nightmare on Elm Street was originally released in 1984, and I remember when it came out, I know my parents watched it as a kid because they were in school still, primary school I think. It was quite a scary movie. If you watch it today, it's not that scary anymore, but I still think it's one of the best horror movies ever. It's an OG horror movie. Now, Nightmare on Elm Street, the story about the Nightmare on Elm Street, it is about this nightmare, this monster. It's called Freddy Krueger. Now, a little backstory of Freddy Krueger is he used to work he was a gardener at the kindergarten of Springfield. So, of Springfield Nursery School. He was a kindergarten, he worked in the kindergarten as a gardener. Now, he started liking the children, the boys and the girls in that school, like in an inappropriate way. And then all of a sudden one day, some children started to disappear with no trace left behind. Eventually, long story short, the parents discovered that it was Freddy Krueger that had something to do with the disappearance of the children, and they eventually chased him down to a factory where they burned the factory down, and that's where Freddy Krueger died, and he got his bruised skin, burned skin, his shirt was ripped and everything. And then he died, but then years later, when all of these children that he used to like, when he was working at a kindergarten, he came back to haunt them in their dreams, which was called nightmares. Well, obviously it's called nightmares. So yeah, so basically it's about, the first movie especially, is surrounded by the main characters Nancy, who's played by Heather Langenkamp. Also Glenn, who was played by Johnny Depp. An interesting fact, this was Johnny Depp's first movie ever. So yeah, Glenn was played by Johnny Depp, and then Tina, who was played by Amanda Weiss. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And then Freddy Krueger was portrayed by no one other than Robert Englund. So when they were adults, whenever they fell asleep, they came across Freddy Krueger, who tried to kill them, and then basically the whole movie, they struggle. They don't want to fall asleep because some of these characters did die in their dreams. In weirdest ways. If you fell asleep, it will rip you through the bed, into the bed, and you'll die. Or when you're in the bathtub, you'll just see his claws with the nails on, and I'm not sure what it was, blades or something, and then it'll rip you through the bathtub and you died. So these characters started struggling to fall asleep, and even though they want to fall asleep, they can't fall asleep, because if they fall asleep, they're gonna face Freddy Krueger. And then this whole movie, they're like getting tired, and then eventually they decided, they're gonna fall asleep, but they're gonna work together in their dreams. So Freddy Krueger faces all the characters in their own dreams, but all the characters eventually work together in their own dream to try to defeat Freddy Krueger, and so on and so on. And eventually it becomes successful, and just when you think it's successful, it returns. Because if I look at the statistics, I did some research. There was five movies of A Nightmare on Elm Street. So obviously he didn't die in the previous movie, because he came back, because it was 5 movies. And then an interesting fact, in the last movie, Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th made a appearance in the last Nightmare on Elm Street, because it was called Freddy versus Jason, and then Jason had to fight Freddy, vice versa. And if I remember correctly, Freddy eventually was defeated by Jason Voorhees, which I like, because I liked Jason is not a monster. He was just, I think he's just broken inside. But yeah, that is Nightmare on Elm Street. Go check it out. Also, the famous lullaby came from Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, 3, 4, better lock your door, 5, 6, grab your crucifix, 7, 8, better stay up late, 9, 10, you never sleep again. I'll play a little clip for you on this video quickly. So that's where that lullaby came from, and then so that's basically that lullaby was the Freddy Krueger lullaby, because they used to sing that song for them to remind them, don't fall asleep because you're gonna die. And then also in 2011, if I remember correctly, there was a reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street. It wasn't that great as the original, but what I do like about the reboot movie is that it covered the backstory of Freddy Krueger a bit better than the original, so it was a bit more disturbing, the backstory of Freddy Krueger. But other than that, it wasn't that great as the original. So yeah, that is A Nightmare on Elm Street. Go check it out. There's 5 movies of A Nightmare on Elm Street. The first one originally released in 1984, and it went over until the 1990s. If I remember correctly, maybe the early 2000s, I'm not sure. But yeah, go check it out. If horror is for you, go check out A Nightmare on Elm Street. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, then we move over to a franchise. So this is the Conjuring franchise. So the Conjuring franchise is my favorite horror franchise in film history ever. I'm going to go through each franchise movie that I've seen before. There's one franchise movie I haven't seen yet, and I can't remember the name, but I think it's Spanish, the name. I'll put the image of that film up here so that you know what movie I'm talking about. But yeah, the first movie in this franchise that I would say is not that good, but it's still scary in some aspects. It's called The Nun. Now, The Nun was originally released in 2018, and it features this evil spirit, The Nun. If I remember correctly, the demon's name was Valak. So The Nun also appeared in the second Conjuring movie, and then they made a sequel and a prequel, more of a prequel of The Conjuring 2's demon, The Nun. So The Nun, I can't remember the first movie. Also, it played in this nun school, so the Catholic school, if I remember correctly, and then this nun haunts their victims basically in the school, and it's the main character works as a nun there, and then she has to face the evil spirit of the nun, and then the whole movie goes through. They have to fight and try to survive. They have to try to get exorcists to summon the demon and all that stuff. But The Nun wasn't that great. It wasn't as good as The Conjuring itself. But The Nun is still a good horror movie to watch when you're looking to get a good scare. I remember there's two movies of The Nun. The Nun Part 2 came out 2 years ago. Well, it'll almost be 3 years now. In 2023. And I remember there was a huge jump scare in the trailer, which I decided, you know what, this is for me. But yeah, the nun is played by the incredible Bonnie Aarons, which looks exactly like the nun in real person, just without the makeup. I'll also put a picture for you up here. So that is the nun. Go check it out. Very good. It is good. No, it's not really very good, but it's good. It's not very good, but it's good. If you would like the nun, if you would like to watch the nun, go check it out. Then we move over to one of the most famous horror dolls in history other than Chucky, and that is Annabelle. Now, Annabelle featured in the first Conjuring movie, and they made 3 prequels after the first Conjuring movie about Annabelle. So the first Annabelle movie was released in 2014, and the 2 main characters of that movie was Ward Harton that played John, and Annabelle Wallace that played Mia. So this movie, Mia was pregnant in the movie, and they just moved into this new neighborhood. And then they decided, they want to buy some stuff for their baby, some dolls, and they got Annabelle as a gift from someone. If I remember correctly, it's been a while since I watched that movie, but I think she got the doll as a present. And then they were a bit skeptic about the doll because it didn't look like a regular doll. It doesn't look like a regular doll anyway, so I don't know why people would take it. But anyways, they placed the doll in the room, and then the weird stuff started to happen. Rocking chairs used to rock without someone sitting on it, and the neighbors killed themselves mysteriously, but it was all by the evil spirit inside the doll. And then eventually the baby was born, and then this evil spirit of the Annabelle started to target the baby. And there's multiple scenes where the baby almost dies. I'm lucky the baby doesn't die, but yeah, it's actually spoiling it for you guys now. But yeah, so basically this whole movie is about Annabelle trying to target the baby and the mother when John, the husband or the father, is not at home. And then yeah, it's quite scary. There's a lot of scenes in Annabelle itself that is very terrifying, and we get a good jump scare and a good scare. So go check that out. And then I remember after 2014, 3 years later, Annabelle Creation was released in 2017. Samuel, who was portrayed, the 2 main characters of that movie is Samuel, that was portrayed by Anthony LaPiglia. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And then also B, who was portrayed by Samara Lee. Now, here, Annabelle Creation takes place, I think, in Russia or Korea. I think Russia or Korea. One of those 2 countries. Why am I getting confused between Russia and Korea now? But it plays overseas, and then also Annabelle just targets the children, targets the victim in a different country. And then later, it was 2 years after that, Annabelle Comes Home was released. So that Annabelle Comes Home was my favorite Annabelle movie, because then it told the story of the main characters of the Conjuring franchise is obviously Ed and Lorraine Warren, and then their daughter Judy Warren. That's it. The story is about Judy Warren in Annabelle Comes Home, where Annabelle targets Judy and her babysitter and her babysitter's friend. So the incredible Judy was portrayed by the incredible McKenna Grace. Mary, which was Judy's babysitter, was portrayed by Madison Eisman, and then Mary's friend Daniela was portrayed by Katie Sarif. So yeah, this whole movie is about Annabelle trying to target the exorcism the Exorcist's daughter, Ed and Lorraine Warren. It's an incredible movie, and that is a true story. The real Judy Warren did do a documentary regarding when Annabelle tried to attack her and her babysitter. So the Conjuring franchise is all based on true stories as well, which makes it more creepier, and that's why I like The Conjuring more, because it is based on a true story. Then we move over to the Conjuring franchise, so the movie The Conjuring. So The Conjuring, there's 4 Conjuring movies. I haven't seen the last one yet, but I would love to watch it. So the first Conjuring movie, originally released in 2013, was about one of the Ed and Lorraine Warren's first cases. So Ed Warren is portrayed by Patrick Wilson, and Lorraine Warren is portrayed by Vera Farmiga. 2 incredible actors. So the first movie was based on also this new family that moved into this house, and then Annabelle was in the first Conjuring movie. So Annabelle was in the house when they moved in, and then eventually Annabelle started, through her evil spirit, starting to target the family, and weird stuff happened, and eventually the main target was the mother. And then so that's a creepy movie. There's a few scenes as well. Like, I'm going to say that the whole time because it's one of the best franchises ever. So that's the first movie. The second movie was released, The Conjuring 2 was released in 2016. Now this, I can't remember the sisters' names, but this was about the movie where the mother also moved in with 2 daughters, or 2 daughters, 1 son, and the father was not in the picture, to remember correctly. And then eventually the nun was the demon in this movie, and then she targeted the youngest daughter, and the daughter was possessed. And then this whole movie throughout, they're trying to summon the demon out of the daughter, and it's crazy. There's a lot of deaths and stuff in that movie. That's also a great movie. So The Conjuring 2 in 2016 was based on the system. Then in 2021, so that was 5 years after The Conjuring 2, The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, was released, and this was about a young adult man that was also possessed by a demon. I can't quite remember what demon this is. It's not the nun Annabelle. The Annabelle nun is out of the Conjuring franchise for now. And then he killed his boss, or I think it was his boss, and it wasn't him. Then he went to prison, and then he went to an asylum, and it wasn't his fault. And then this whole movie goes through where they have to try to prove him innocent. And Ed and Lorraine Warren goes to his house, talks to him, and they found out, oh, he's possessed by a demon. So that's what The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, is about. Now, the last movie, which was released in 2025, which was last year, it was released on September 7th, if I remember correctly, or September 5th. It was called The Conjuring Last Rites. Now this, I know they said it's the scariest and the best Conjuring movie out of the whole franchise. So this was Ed and Lorraine Warren's last mission to summon a demon. And then I haven't seen it yet, so I don't have much to tell about it, but I know it's quite terrifying. It is rated R, and it's rated for adults only, so it is quite scary and hectic. But this was the last movie of the Conjuring franchise as well, and it was also Ed and Lorraine Warren's last mission ever. And then this whole storyline would explain why it was their last mission. So yeah, I'm still gonna watch The Last Rites. Go check it out as well. Then the last movie I would like to cover for today or tonight is the movie It, all about this famous Stephen King novel. It is about the evil clown Pennywise that literally preys on people's fear and then eat them, because if he eats the children, he eats their fear, and that's his food, is the fear of children and people. So the first ever It movie was released in 1990, and Pennywise was portrayed by Tim Curry. I've seen that movie. It was one of the longest movies I've ever watched. It was like 3.5 hours. It wasn't as good as it, but the storyline was quite similar to the reboot as well, which made it good. So the reboot movie of It was released in 2017, where Pennywise was portrayed by the wonderful Bill Skarsgård, and it was also in it is about this loser club. It's a group of 7 friends that that eventually they goes to the same school. Eventually, all 7 kids were faced it before in a different form. As it, one of them was their teacher, one of them was a burning house with people screaming for help. Other one was their father. Other one was their uncle. All that stuff. So eventually they became friends because they all have faced the same demon, and then their whole mission is to destroy and defeat Pennywise, which was obviously unsuccessful because there was a second movie when they were adults, but I'll get to that in a moment. I just want to name some of the main characters of It in 2017. So one of the main characters was Beverly, which was the only girl in the Losers Club, and she was portrayed by Sophia Lillis. And then Richie was portrayed by Finn Wolfhard. I haven't written down Bill, the main character actually of the Losers Club. I can't remember who portrayed him, but I'll put the photo of the actor on here. So Bill's little brother Georgie was the first. It was the first time Bill heard of Pennywise because Georgie went to play in the rain with his waterboat, and then he faced Pennywise, and eventually Pennywise bit off his arm and ate him, and that's where the movie starts. There's a quite disturbing opening of a movie, but then this whole mission, they obviously, like I said, they worked together to defeat Pennywise. Obviously, it was unsuccessful because in 2 years after that, in 2019, It Chapter 2 was released. Now, this movie takes place 27 years after the first movie because Pennywise returns every 27 years to prey on the fears of new people and new children. So, but because the Losers Club gave him so much hell 27 years ago, he came back to haunt them again. Now, this time, Richie is portrayed by Bill Hader. The adult Bill is portrayed by James McAvoy, and the adult Beverly is portrayed by Jessica Chastain, and Pennywise still Bill Skarsgård. So this is It Chapter 2 was quite a big cast. It was big names, huge names on there. So on this movie, they're adults, and now they have to face Pennywise again, and now they try to defeat him. And then in the end, I think they did defeat him, if I remember correctly. And then, yeah, they killed Pennywise completely. So that's how it ended. But go check it out. It was one of my one of the best, and one of my favorite horror movies ever. And then also in 2025, on the 27th of October, the prequel TV show of It was released. It is called It Welcome to Derry. Now, this goes back to the 1960s, where Pennywise, I think, first appeared in this fiction city, Derry in Illinois, USA. So this is when he first appeared and first started to prey on the fears of people. I also started watching that show. It is incredible. Oh, I love that show. So check out that TV show as well. It is I think it's also a Showtime show, if I remember correctly, or an HBO. I think it's HBO. I think it's an HBO show. So go check it out. It's called It Welcome to Derry. So yeah, guys, that is all movies for today. Now I'm gonna quickly take a commercial break. Like I said, it's not really a commercial break, but this is gonna be a commercial. It is stuff that I do for you guys. So if you guys want to have your own customized calendar for 2026 or 2027, if you want your own mug design, your own customized poster, your own tickets for an event or a performance, I do all this stuff. So you're gonna see quickly some ads of what I do with all my contact details if you are interested. So please enjoy, and I will see you after the break. Here is just a short video to show you my small business and what I do. If you're interested in someone to design your own custom-made items like calendars, lists, invitations and more, you can ask me anytime. I do the following: calendars, menus, invitations, advertisements, guest lists, table listings, posters, profile pictures, letters, Google Forms, keychains and so much more. If you're interested in ads being in a video form or anything else, I do that too. It is cheap, with prices ranging from 100 Rand to 500 Rand depending on what it is, and it also excludes the printing costs. If you are interested or know someone that might be, feel free to contact me at 060-912-3912. Just message me on WhatsApp. I will really appreciate your support regarding my small business for extra money. Thank you. Welcome back to Just Talking Nonsense. You just seen an advertisement of my part-time business. It's just a small business I do just for some extra income. So please support me with it if you would like some customized mark designs, customized calendars. What is happening to the lighting? If you would like some posters, some if you would want me to make some advertisements or tickets for an event, or what else can I do? I can do birthday invites, I can do invitations, I can do basically anything you can think of. So if you're interested, please contact me. I would really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we just did movies. Before the break, we talked about A Nightmare on Elm Street. We talked about the Conjuring franchise, including the movies The Nun, Annabelle, and The Conjuring, and we also did It. Alright, now we're moving over to the TV shows. So the first TV show we're doing is not actually a horror. It is actually quite a nice show. It's not for everyone, but if it is for you, you must listen. Please listen up. Okay, so the first show we are talking about tonight is the Netflix original series, The Crown. Now, The Crown premiered back in 2016 and premiered its final episode back in 2023 after 6 seasons. Now, The Crown is about the British royal family. So this storyline is mostly surrounded over by late Queen Elizabeth and late Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, but throughout the series we eventually focus a bit more on Prince or King Charles, Princess Diana, Prince William, and Prince Harry. So this show is not a documentary series. It's not a documentary series at all, but the creator of The Crown used to work in Buckingham's Palace, so he used to know what happened in the Buckingham Palace and what happened in each royal member's life. Not everything is completely true, obviously, because it is still for TV show. It's still a TV show, so I have to make some stuff up. But some scenes especially is exactly like it was in real time. Some scenes are shot exactly like it was in real time, which makes it such an incredible show. Now, this show had a major cast because after each 2 seasons, it had different cast members. For example, season 1 and season 2 focused on 1950s to the 1960s of Queen Elizabeth, about middle to 1970s. Season 3 to 4 focused on middle 1970s to the 1990s, and then season 5 and 6 focused from 1990s up to the early 2000s. So obviously the Queen was aged throughout the years, and Charles and Philip and everyone, so they had different casts. But here are the cast of the main characters. So this will be late Queen Elizabeth, the second, Prince Philip, Prince Charles, Princess Margaret, which was the sister of Queen Elizabeth, and also Princess Diana. So for season 1 to 2, Queen Elizabeth was portrayed by the incredible Claire Foy, Prince Philip was portrayed by Matt Smith, and Princess Margaret was portrayed by Vanessa Kirby. Incredible, the first 2 seasons was one of the best seasons of The Crown because it covered historical events, the coronation of Princess Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth. So it was incredible. And then follow up to season 3 to 4, Queen Elizabeth was portrayed by Olivia Colman, Prince Philip was portrayed by Tobias Menzies, Prince Charles or King Charles was portrayed by Joss O'Connor, Princess Diana was portrayed by Emma Corrin, and Princess Margaret was portrayed by Helena Bonham Carter. And then moving through in season 3 to 4, we had the love story of Princess Diana and King Charles. We had their wedding, we had the birth of William and Harry, and then moving over to season 5 and 6, it was after the divorce. So in season 5 they divorced, and then it was Princess Diana fighting for freedom. I love Princess Diana, she's absolutely one of my role models. So that's where she tried to escape the royal family, and eventually it also showed her death in the show, which was quite emotional. But for season 5 to 6, Queen Elizabeth was portrayed by Imelda Staunton. Prince Philip was portrayed by Jonathan Pryce. Prince Charles, or King Charles, was portrayed by Dominic West. Princess Diana was portrayed by Elizabeth Debicki, and Princess Margaret was portrayed by Leslie Manville. This last season of season 6 portrayed the death of Princess Margaret, the death of Princess Diana, the death of Elizabeth, the Queen's mother, and it also showcased Princess Elizabeth's death. It wasn't her; they didn't show her death, but she had to plan her funeral for when she dies sometime back in 2005. So it showed the real coffin and stuff in the show, so it was quite nice. And it also showed Prince Charles and Camilla wedding. So The Crown is not for everyone, like I said, but for me who loves the royal family and obsessed with what's happening in their lives, The Crown is definitely for someone like that. Then, so please go check out The Crown. It's still on Netflix. It was on the Netflix top 10. Each season was on the top 10 of Netflix because it was an incredible show. Alright, then we move over to another Netflix show, which is called nothing other than a scientific fiction, one of the most famous Netflix shows ever, Stranger Things. The first episode premiered back in 2016, and the last episode premiered end of last year in 2025. Now, Stranger Things is about this group of friends, almost like it, a group of friends that gets stuck in the middle between monsters like the Demogorgon, the Demodogs, the Mind Flayer, the Upside Down Vecna. So, Stranger Things is also based on the game Dungeons and Dragons, so it's scientific, but science fiction. Science fiction. So Stranger Things is, like I said, one of the best and one of the most famous series and successful series on Netflix ever. Season 4, which premiered back in 2022, was one of the biggest TV show seasons in Netflix history. It had over 1 million viewers, streams, and views and everything. And I remember the last 2 episodes of season 4 was almost like a movie. It was like 2 hours, 1 hour to up to 2 hours long. And season 5, every episode is above an hour. Season 5 also was a huge success. This is some cast of Stranger Things for interest. So one of the main characters, Eleven, which is the girl with the superpowers that usually defeats the Demogorgon, Vecna, etc. So they used to do experiments with her in Hawking's lab. So it takes place in Hawking's, Indiana, in USA. So Eleven is portrayed by Millie Bobby Brown. Will, which is also Eleven's boyfriend in the show, is portrayed by not Will, Mike. Mike is Eleven's boyfriend in the show, and is portrayed by Finn Wolfhard. Now, Will is the boy that got kidnapped through the Demogorgon and went through the Upside Down, but eventually they saved him, but he was still stuck with things from the Upside Down. You can still feel spirits of the monsters from the Upside Down. Like he gets goosebumps and he sweats, and then he knows, oh, something is not right. So Will is portrayed by Noah Schnapp. Joyce, which portrays Will and Jonathan Byers' mother, is portrayed by Winona Ryder. Jim Hopper, the detective, which is also Eleven's adopted father and Joyce's love interest, he is portrayed by David Harbour. Then Max, the badass kid that came into season 2 of Stranger Things, was also Lucas's lover. Max is portrayed by Sadie Sink. Dustin, one of the friends in the group, is portrayed by Gaten Matarazzo. Lucas, like I said, Mac's lover, is portrayed by Caleb McLaughlin. I hope I pronounced the names correctly. Nancy, which is Mike's older sister, is portrayed by Natalia Dyer. Then Steve, the father of the friend group, basically, and the protective one, Dustin's best friend as well, is portrayed by Joe Keery. And then Jonathan Byers, which is Will's brother and also Nancy's love interest, although Steve was also her love interest, so we'll see what happens there. And Jonathan's portrayed by Charlie Heaton. Interesting fact: Charlie Heaton and Natalia Dyer. So Jonathan and Nancy, the actors in real life, are engaged. So they're actually in love in real life, which is just an interesting fact. But yeah, Stranger Things was one of the most successful Netflix series. Like I said, I don't like sci-fi at all, but Stranger Things was different. So I would recommend Stranger Things for you to go and watch. So go check it out. It's based on all kinds of monsters, all kinds of twists, nail-biting scenes, incredible cast. Go check it out. Season 5, the final season, still premiering right now as a top 10 on Netflix. Then we move over to the best. This is the best horror TV show I've ever watched. No one or nothing were ever able to top this show. And it's called The Haunting of Hill House, also on Netflix. Now, The Haunting of Hill House is a mini-series which also released in 2018. The Haunting of Hill House is about the Crane family that moves into the Hill House. So it was called the Hill House. And then also spiritual stuff used to happen, demonical possessions. And the mother originally was possessed, and then strange things started to happen. Eventually they moved out of the house, and then when they were adults, the secrets what happened in the house actually started to unveil, and the secrets came out. And to see how each child eventually turned out as an adult is quite sad to see what each one did. But yeah, this is one of the best storytelling and storylines of a horror movie. It is scary. It's not like you don't get scared of the music, you get scared of what's actually happening. So the cast of this, it's Mike Flanagan, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, created this show. He's a phenomenal horror. He also made TV shows like The Fall of the House of Usher, which is also now on Netflix. And then the other show he did on Netflix was called, I can't remember now. But it's about a small island community on a small island, and also weird stuff started to happen there. But the cast of The Haunting of Hill House, so the main character is Stephen, which was the oldest son of the Crane family. The adult Stephen is portrayed by Michiel Huisman, and the younger Stephen is portrayed by Paxton Singleton. Then the mother of the Crane family, which unfortunately didn't make it out of the house, Olivia, she's portrayed by Carla Giorgino. Then the father of the Crane family, the adult youth is portrayed by Timothy Houston, and the younger youth is portrayed by Henry Thomas. Now, when I did research about the cast, I didn't even know that Henry Thomas, who portrays the younger youth, was actually the little boy in E.T. So I don't remember. I don't know if some of you watch E.T., but it's a very old movie, very old, and it's about an alien. His name is, what is the alien's name? I think his name is E.T. And I also know that was Henry Thomas's first movie, and also Drew Barrymore's first movie. Drew Barrymore was 4 in that movie, so that's just an interesting fact for you to know. And then Shirley, which was the eldest daughter of the Crane family. The adult Shirley is portrayed by Elizabeth Reeser, and the younger Shirley is portrayed by Lulu Wilson. Then Luke and Nell. So Luke and Nell were twins. Actually, I should do them last because they're the youngest. The second eldest daughter of the Crane family was called Theodora, or Theo for short. The adult Theodora was played by Kate Siegel, an absolutely phenomenal actress. And then also the younger Theodora was portrayed by the wonderful McKenna Grace. And then Luke and Nell were twins, so they're the youngest of the Crane family. Luke, the adult Luke was portrayed by Oliver Jackson Cohen, and the younger Luke was portrayed by Julian Hilliard. And then Nell, the adult Nell, was portrayed by Victoria Bedretti, and the younger Nell was portrayed by Violet McGraw. So this show is there's scenes that you don't even recognize, but there's like statues in the house, and each statue actually tells a story of what's happening in the Hill House. It's just a phenomenal storyline. I would really suggest go check Haunting of Hill House out on Netflix. It is really the best horror TV show I've ever seen, and you won't regret watching it. It's really incredible. Then after The Haunting of Hill House, there was a sequel or a prequel. I always get confused between the two. But 2 years after that, The Haunting of Bly Manor was released. Now, The Haunting of Bly Manor was also good because it was also created by Mike Flanagan, but it wasn't as good as The Haunting of Hill House. So The Haunting of Bly Manor is based on this babysitter that used to babysit the children of Bly Manor because the parents were out of town. Then that babysitter strangely disappeared with her boyfriend. No one knows what happened to her, and then eventually the main character called Danny was the new babysitter, and then weird stuff started to happen. The two children that she had to babysit was acting strange, and paranormal activity started to happen in the house. But yeah, it's also phenomenal. It's still a phenomenal series. It's not as good as The Haunting of Hill House, but it's still very good. I just quickly want to go through the cast of The Haunting of Bly Manor. So the main character, Danny, who was the babysitter of The Haunting of Bly Manor, was portrayed by yet again Victoria Pedretti. Hannah, which was one of the workers, or she made, I don't know what she was. She was one of the family friends of The Haunting of Bly Manor, of the Bly Manor family. Hannah, she was portrayed by Tania Miller. Owen, which also worked at the manor, was portrayed by Rahul Kohli. Then Flora, which is the youngest child of Bly Manor, which had to be babysitted. Flora was portrayed by Amelia B. Smith, which is also now the voice actress of Peppa Pig, which is an interesting fact. Then the younger kid, the boy who had to be babysitted, was called Miles, and he was portrayed by Benjamin Evan Ainsworth. And then Charlotte, which was the gardener of Bly Manor, and then also the main character. There was some sparkle between Danny and Charlotte in the show as well. Charlotte was portrayed by Alex Esso. So, The Haunting of Bly Manor, like I said, is not as good as The Haunting of Hill House, but the storyline is still phenomenal. There's lots of twists and turns in that, dark turns in that show. You can check it out as well. You also won't regret it. It's also on Netflix. Then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm moving over to one of the last 3 shows I'm doing now. The one I'm doing now and the 2 after that is the best TV shows, one of the best TV shows I've ever seen in my life. Now, this one is also a Netflix original show, also one of the most successful shows ever, and it's called Arcane League of Legends. Now, Arcane League of Legends is obviously based from the video game League of Legends. It focuses, so the first 2 seasons, Arcane, focused on the characters of Jinx, Violet or Vi, Jinx or Powder, Caitlyn, Jace, Mel, Victor, Echo, and Heimerdinger. It was the storyline between Piltover and what was the other place name? Piltover and the underground place. Oh my goodness. Piltover was like the kingdom, the palace and stuff. Oh my words. And the business that Jay started was oh my goodness, I've seen it like last year. Hextech is the company or magical company that Victor and Jay started. What is the place, the other place? Oh my goodness, guys, you forgive me quickly, let me just quickly think. I'm gonna quickly do research quickly, just give me a moment. Oh my goodness. Okay, Zorn is the place where Powder or Jinx and Vi comes from. So Arcane, the first season premiered back in 2021, and the last season 2, premiered in 2024. Now, one thing about season 2 is it wasn't as good as season 1. I like that it focuses on Jinx because I'm obsessed with Jinx. Those who know me will know. But season 2 felt so rushed for me. It felt like they only had like a certain time to finish the show, and then everything was so rushed. Still a good show, but I was a bit disappointed that they rushed everything, and now the storyline of those characters are over. The Riot Games did say they have plans of continuing the League of Legends TV show series. Sorry guys, there's something in my eye. That focuses on different characters from the game. But Arcane League of Legends was an incredible show. It also won a game award for the best game adaptation. So the cast of Arcane League of Legends is as follows. Vi, the voice actress of Vi is Haley Steinfeld. Jinx, Ella Purnell. Caitlyn, Katie Long. Jace, Kevin Alejandro. Mal, please forgive my pronunciation of this name. Tox Ola Gundoi. Victor, Harry Lloyd. Echo, Reed Shannon. And Heimerdinger, Mick Wingert. Now, the people from Piltover, which I said was like, they were seen as the good guys in the kingdom of Piltover. So Caitlyn, Jace, Mal, and Victor and Heimerdinger come from Piltover, and then from Zorn, the underground place. That was the home of Vi, Jinx, and Echo. So Echo and Jinx used to be best friends, and then obviously the bad guy Silco came into the picture. A lot of stuff happened there. The Jinx original name is Powder, but then Silco took care of Powder, and Powder changed the name to Jinx, and then Jinx was like a bad guy. She's a badass. I love Jinx. You can't convince me otherwise. And then eventually Vi didn't like anyone from Piltover, but eventually she was forced to work together with Caitlyn in order to find Silco and find Jinx, which is Vi's sister. So just watch the show. It's incredible. It's not anime, it's animation, so you can't convince me otherwise. It is animation, it's not anime. But it's not a child's movie. So just understand, it's not something a child can watch. There's a lot of language and scenes in it that a child cannot watch. So just because it's animation, obviously doesn't mean it's child friendly. But go check out Arcane. Is a phenomenal show. Absolutely phenomenal. Then we move over to our second last show of tonight's episode, and that is the Showtime original show called Yellow Jackets. Now, Yellow Jackets premiered back in 2021, and it is still going on premiering. So the second season was released in 2023, and the third season was released last year in 2025. So the the fourth season are set to premiere next year again in 2027, and then season 5 in 2029. Yeah, so they want to leave a year gap between each season. I don't know why it's so stupid, because I love that show and I just wanted to each year have a season. But anyway, Yellow Jackets focuses on this group of the girls soccer team called the Yellow Jackets that won the semifinals, and they're going through for nationals, and then they eventually got in this plane. Then something happened. They got into a plane crash. They crashed into the forest, into the wilderness, and then they had to start to survive. And they've been missing for, I think, 18 months. So that is a year and a half. I think a year and a half. So we're missing, and they had to eventually the food run out. They had to build shelter and stuff. So eventually it moved over to cannibalism. They had to start to eat each other in order to survive. But it's like weird. It's not just like someone, you can eat me, I want to die. But they do weird kinds of rituals and stuff, and then they literally prey like animals on that person they want to eat, and then eventually they eat him, and then it's sick. It's not for everyone, but I love it. I know I'm a bit weird, but it's fine. So basically that's what Yellow Jackets is about. So it's also two storylines. It's about the teen version, the teenagers of the soccer team that tries to survive in the wilderness, and then the second time is them as adults, everyone that survived eventually as adults. And then in the adult storyline, there's a lot of people that try to expose their lies, try to expose the secrets they did in the wilderness, and then they have to work together. They were forced to work together again to prevent the secrets to come out. And then also they made a promise never to go into the public light, but then so that no one knows about them, because everyone knew about the Yellow Jackets team that went missing back in 1980s or something. So the 1980s is the teen storyline, and the adult storyline is present day, so 22 to 2020s. But yeah, and then one of the main actors, one main characters decided they're going to be state senator, and then they got mad because they said they will never go into the public light for people to ask questions regarding what happened back in the wilderness. But yeah, it's like a very interesting show. It's a big cast, very famous actress. I'm going to quickly go through the cast so you can just listen, for example, what I'm talking about. So the main character is called Shauna. So the teen Shauna is portrayed by Sophie Nelise, and the adult Shauna is portrayed by Melanie Linsky. Then Thaisa, the teen Thaisa is portrayed by Jasmine Savoy Brown, and the adult Thaisa, which is the one that goes into state senator, is portrayed by Tawny Cypress. Natalie, the third main character, is portrayed the teen version Sophie Thatcher, and the adult Natalie is portrayed by Juliette Lewis. Then we have Misty. The teen Misty is portrayed by Sammy Hannity, and the adult Misty, the wonderful Christina Ricci. Then Lottie, the most crazy one out of all of them. The teen Lottie is portrayed by Courtney Eaton, and the adult Lottie is portrayed by Simone Castle. Then Van, the red-headed character, the teen Van is portrayed by Liv Hewson, and the adult Van by Laura Ambrose. And then Melissa, season 3 Melissa, the teen Melissa is portrayed by Jenna Burgess, and the adult Melissa portrayed by Hilary Swank. So Melissa is the new Hilary Swank, came into season 3, Van season 2, as well as adult Lottie, but all the teenagers were from season 1. So Ella Purnell, who's the voice actress of Jinx from Arcane, also plays in Yellow Jackets. It's a very big cast and it's very famous characters. This show, like I said, is not for everyone. It's a bit disturbing and crazy because sick as well, if you think about the rituals they have to do, and they have to do cannibalism and try to hide it from public. So yeah, it is not for everyone. I personally love it. If you are into that type of shows, go check out Yellow Jackets. Yellow Jackets is also on Netflix and also on Showmax, so you can check it out there as well. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we move over to the last TV show, which is also a massive bloody franchise, and that is the one and only AMC's The Walking Dead. Now, The Walking Dead, as people that knows me would know, this is my ultimate favorite show ever. I'm obsessed with The Walking Dead. I'm obsessed with zombies. I'm obsessed with apocalypse. So The Walking Dead is definitely my go-to show. I've seen that show 5 times already. I'm busy with my 6th time rewatching it. Yeah, I know. So The Walking Dead originally premiered back in 2010, and over 11 seasons, it eventually ended back in 2022. But The Walking Dead is about the sheriff from King County's department, Rick Grimes, that got shot in a road rage or in a police chase, and then he woke up from a coma. When he wakes up from a coma, everything changed. The world changed. He's in an apocalypse, and he doesn't know where his wife or child is. His wife was called Laurie, and which was portrayed by Sarah Wayne Callies, and Carl, which was portrayed by Chandler Riggs. Now he's looking for Laurie and Carl, and he can't find them. Eventually he meets this guy Morgan, portrayed by Lenny James. So Rick Grimes, obviously portrayed by Andrew Lincoln, and then eventually throughout he finds his family, and then there's a lot of, they have to fight for survival and get traitors, you get bad guys, you get the zombies tries to eat you. So a lot of deaths, a lot of craziness in that show. Eventually they meet survivors like Daryl, like his best friend Shane, Michonne, Carol, and the famous bad guy in the Walking Dead franchise, Negan. So The Walking Dead is a zombie apocalyptic show. Some episodes I would say some episodes felt like they didn't know what they were doing anymore and they run out of ideas. But overall, it's very good. And then, like I said, the Walking Dead franchise is extremely big because it had 6 spin-offs as well, and some of those spin-offs are still showing. So the first ever spin-off of The Walking Dead was called Fear the Walking Dead, which premiered back in 2015 and premiered its last episode back in 2023 after 8 seasons. Now this show, so The Walking Dead plays or it's located in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, USA, and Fear the Walking Dead was in Los Angeles, California, USA, eventually moved over through to San Diego, then Mexico City, actually, and then back to Georgia, Atlanta. But Fear the Walking Dead focuses originally on the Clark family. So the Clark family was the mother, a brother, sister, and a stepfather. So the mother was called Madison Clark, which was portrayed by Kim Deakins. Nick Clark, which was her son, was portrayed by Frank Delane, and Alicia Clark, which is portrayed by the incredible Alicia Debnam Carey. So basically, the Fear the Walking Dead, what's nice about Fear the Walking Dead is it shows how the city eventually fell, how the world started to get destroyed, and how the world. So the apocalypse breaks out in Fear the Walking Dead. You actually see how the apocalypse breaks out and how everything fell and how everything gets destroyed. So that is basically what Fear the Walking Dead is. And then eventually they found this guide. It's called Victor Strand, which is portrayed by the incredible Coleman Domingo. He saves them on a boat. They go to Mexico City because he has friends. He has a boyfriend in Mexico City. They meet. Then Nick meets his girlfriend, Luciana, portrayed by Danai Garcia. And then eventually, they had to escape Mexico City. They went back to the US, into Atlanta, Georgia. And then Fear the Walking Dead started to go downhill a bit, because then they killed off Kim Deakins. They killed off Madison. Nick was killed off. Frank Dillon wanted to leave the show. Travis, which was the stepfather, also died. And then it was more like a collaboration between The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, because then Morgan, that saved Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead, that was portrayed by Lenny James, then he became the main actor of Fear the Walking Dead. And Morgan found survivors like June, which was portrayed by Jenna Elfman, his lover Grace, which was portrayed by Karen Davids, and also I forgot Daniel, which they met back in Los Angeles in season 1, which was portrayed by Ruben Blades. So then it went downhill. Season 4 and 5 was still fine, but then in season 6, it was okay up till halfway, and then at the end of season 6, they threw nuclear bombs all over the city, all over the country, and then they had to live in a nuclear apocalyptic world, which was just I thought it was going to be cool, but it was actually one of the worst. It was the worst season ever, and then they lost money, and then eventually they had to cancel the show and finish it by season 8, which was quite sad, because it used to be a very good show, but the new showrunners absolutely ruined the whole show. And eventually Madison came back. She wasn't actually dead, and then because they tried to save the show, unfortunately that wasn't able to save the show, and then Alicia Debnam Carey went out of the show, and then it was just no point watching anymore. But I finished the show. They ruined the show, the showrunners. But that was Fear the Walking Dead. So if you'd like to watch the first 5 seasons, check it out. It's still very good. The outbreak of season 1 is the best. That's better than season 1 for me of The Walking Dead, almost. Alright, and then also they had a spin-off called The Walking Dead World Beyond that premiered back in 2020 and finished. It was 2 seasons and premiered back in 2021. Now I have nothing to say about this. It was absolute trash. It was the worst spin-off they could possibly make. I haven't seen this yet, and I will never see it, because I've seen a few episodes and it was like so boring, and it ruined everything of The Walking Dead almost. So I won't recommend watching The Walking Dead World Beyond. It is absolute trash. And then in the same year as The Walking Dead ended, back in 2022, they released a spin-off, Tales of The Walking Dead, in 2020. Now there's only 1 season yet of Tales of The Walking Dead, but the creator and showrunner Scott M. Gimple would like to continue Tales of The Walking Dead. So basically, Tales of The Walking Dead is a tale. So each episode focuses on a different storyline, different characters, almost like Black Mirror does. So it's a different story, different characters each episode. Some of the main characters from Tales of The Walking Dead was Joe, which was portrayed by the one and only Terry Crews. I never thought I would see Terry Crews in the Walking Dead universe. D, or also Alpha, which was the Whisperer's leader in The Walking Dead, portrayed by Samantha Morton. Blair, which was portrayed by Parker Posey, and Idalia, which was portrayed by Daniela Pineda. So Tales of the Walking Dead, I haven't finished because it wasn't for me, but I know it was also a huge success, so most people liked it. It just wasn't for me. And then after The Walking Dead ended, I forgot to say something about The Walking Dead. I have to say the villains of The Walking Dead franchise is incredible. Now everyone is basically the same, but The Walking Dead, it started off with the governor. Oh my goodness, that guy was a traitor and he was a liar. But I hated the governor. But that was a good villain. Then we meet the cannibals from Terminus. That was just a small part of the show. Then we go over to the wolves. The wolves was also, they just attacked people and took their stuff. Was also quite scary back in season 6 of The Walking Dead. And then Negan of the Saviors is the most famous villain up to date of The Walking Dead franchise. Like I said, Negan was portrayed by Jeffrey Dean Morgan with his Bat Lucille, where he smashed people's brains in. One of the most grossest episodes in TV history, when he decided he's going to kill a survivor of the main cast. But yeah, it was very, very, very good and bloody sarcastic killer. I love him. And then we also meet, after Negan, we meet the Whisperers. The Whisperers is the most scariest villains in the Walking Dead franchise, because they literally wear zombie masks and they walk with the zombies and they whisper to each other, and that's how they attack the enemies. So that is quite disturbing, but it was one of the best killers or villains as well. And like I said, Alpha from Tales of the Walking Dead was the leader of the Whisperers. So in Tales of the Walking Dead, they told Alpha's backstory of how she met the Whisperers, how she came Alpha, the leader of the Whisperers. All right, and then a year after The Walking Dead ended, they did say back in 2020 they would like some spin-off of the characters from The Walking Dead to continue, and that's where we got The Walking Dead City, where we got the characters of Negan, portrayed by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and Maggie, portrayed by Lauren Cohan. Now, Negan obviously killed Maggie's husband Glenn, so Maggie actually hates Negan, and now they are forced to work together in their spin-off Date City. The Date City takes place in New York City, in Manhattan, which is quite cool because it's 2010 New York City, like the OG old New York City. So that's quite cool. Yeah, so now they are forced to work together, and Negan works with another bad guy that used to be a savior for him, and now he wants to kill Negan, and Maggie tries to save Negan, I don't know, so that she can kill him. But some other cast, the villain of Date City, actually, other than Negan, is called the Croat, the Croat, and he's played by the Ukrainian actor Zeliko Ivanek. And then Herschel Ree, which is Maggie and Glenn's son, is played by Logan Kim. So yeah, Herschel also gives a lot of trouble for Maggie because he's a teenager, and teenagers with mothers. Yeah, so Date City is not the best for me. I liked season 1, but season 2 wasn't that great. And then I don't know, it's still showing. I'm not sure when the show's going to end, but I know it's been renewed for a 3rd season, so it's still going to probably go on for a while. And then also in the same year, this was one of the best and the most successful spin-offs as well of the Walking Dead franchise. It's called The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. Now it focuses on Norman Reedus' character Daryl Dixon and Carol, Carol, portrayed by Melissa McBride. Now this takes place in Europe, so the first 2 seasons took place in France, in Paris, which was incredible because I love Europe. So apocalyptic Paris with the Eiffel Tower and everything, and the Louvre and everything was incredible. And now season 3 and 4 takes place in Spain. So it has been renewed for 4th season already, and it is said to be their final season of Daryl Dixon. So it will end officially later this year in 2026. But Daryl Dixon is very cool. I would recommend, if you would like another spin-off to watch, I would recommend Daryl Dixon. It is a very good show. And I know fans are obsessed with Daryl Dixon, so with the character as well. So yeah, I would recommend watching The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. And then my favorite spin-off out of Dead City, Daryl Dixon, and this one is called The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. Now, for those of you who know The Walking Dead would remember that Rick Grimes eventually decided to leave. Andrew Lincoln, that portrays Rick Grimes, decided he wants to spend more time with his family in London or in the UK. I think he's from London. So he decided he wants his character to be written out of The Walking Dead back in season 9 in 2018. There is also where a lot of fans stopped watching The Walking Dead because obviously Rick Grimes is the center of the show. But then eventually he and Michonne, who's portrayed by the incredible Danai Gurira, fell in love on the show, and then Michonne was trying to find Rick for 7 years, and then eventually she found out that Rick wasn't dead, because they did show Rick wasn't dead. He was saved for in case they want to return him one day, which was a good thing. And then Michonne found out he was still alive, and she went in the end of The Walking Dead. She went through to look for Rick, because also they have 2 children. They have an adoptive, Judith Grimes, which was Laurie and Rick's best friend Shane's child. Judith Grimes, portrayed by Kaylee Fleming, and then also they had a child, Rick Jr., together, Rick and Michonne. So they left the kids with Daryl as their uncle, basically, and then she went off to find Rick. Now, in The Ones Who Live, it is a love story. It premiered back in 2024. It is a love story between Rick and Michonne. Eventually, they find each other and they work together to escape the CRM, which is the community where Rick was captured and can't escape from. And then also the third main character in the show is Pearl Thorne, which is played by the one and only South African actress Leslie Ann Brandt, which is also incredible in the show. So she works together eventually to save them, and then she turns against them, and then they had to face her and the CRM eventually. But eventually, happy ending. They escaped the CRM. They went back to Judith and RJ, and it was a happy ending. That is the most beautiful TV show of The Walking Dead ever, because it was a love story. It had a happy ending. They reunited with their family. But yeah, there is talks of Rick Grimes returning in the Walking Dead franchise. I don't know if they would do a sequel or a second season of The Ones Who Live, or are we going to see him in Daryl Dixon or in Dead City? I think probably Daryl Dixon, because Rick and Daryl are like brothers for each other. So yeah, that is how big the Walking Dead franchise is. I know it's a handful. Sometimes I think like it's enough. They can just end it. I think after Dead City and Daryl Dixon, I think they're gonna stop the franchise. So yeah, it's a lot. The Walking Dead is, like I said, my personal favorite of all time. And if you like zombies, try The Walking Dead. You never know. You can try Fear the Walking Dead as well, because basically the first 3 seasons has nothing to do with the original show, and then you eventually have to watch The Walking Dead to know what's happening in season 4 to 8. But yeah, also you can watch Tales of the Walking Dead as well. It has nothing to do with the main show. The Walking Dead Will Beyond also has nothing to do with the main show, but I wouldn't recommend that because it's absolute trash. Yeah, but all of these spin-offs, some are actually connects with the main show, which is quite cool. There's they like mention some characters from the main show in World Beyond, for example. But yeah, so just check it out. You never know. And then also The Haunting of Hill House if you like horror, because that is an incredible TV show. So yeah, guys, that is episode 4 of Just Talking Nonsense. I know I really talked a lot. My throat is quite dry now. Just a quick recap of what we did for tonight's episode. So we talked about movies and TV shows, my favorites of all time, and most of them was horror except for 2 shows. So for movies, we talked about A Nightmare on Elm Street. We talked about It. Talked about the Conjuring franchise, including The Conjuring 1, The Conjuring 2, The Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It, The Conjuring Last Rites, The Nun Part 2, Annabelle Comes Home, and Annabelle Creation. And then from TV shows, we talked about The Crown, which focuses on the British royal family, focuses on late Queen Elizabeth and late Prince Philip's storyline. And then we talked about Stranger Things, incredible show. We talked about Arcane League of Legends, phenomenal show. We talked about The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, Yellow Jackets, and the Walking Dead franchise. So hey guys, I'll see you guys next week for episode 5, which is also a very exciting episode. I'm very excited for that episode. So yeah, thank you so much for watching Just Talking Nonsense. Thank you for so much views and success so far I'm getting and receiving, and the support. I really appreciate it. Also, yet again, remember those things I do: the posters, the calendars, the mug designs. Contact me if you're interested. I'll talk the price. We'll talk prices when you contact me. It is not that expensive. It's really valid prices. It's very nice prices. So yeah, please, it's fair prices. That's what I wanted to say. So yeah, see you guys on my next video. Just remember, Just Talking Nonsense is a show where we talk about all kinds of literature, authors, TV shows, films, gaming, editing, arts, artworks, paintings, and so much more. I'll see you guys all in my next episode, which will be next week, Sunday at 6 o'clock. Where Just Talking Nonsense will premiere, 6 o'clock South African time on my channel next week, Sunday. Until I see you again, love you all, stay safe. Until next week, bye-bye.